Hello and welcome to Past Your Bedtime. My name's Bev, and on today's episode I'm joined by Olly Harrison, better known as Olly Blogs. A fifth-generation farmer from Merseyside, Olly started posting his typical day on the farm almost by chance, right back at the beginning of the pandemic. Encouraged by a few friends and followers on his socials, he decided to keep it going and launch a YouTube channel. 5 years on, Olly now has over 175,000 subscribers and still posts something every day, achieving views in the tens of thousands. In fact, when I first started to explore the world of agriculture, and farm machinery in particular, it was Olly's name that kept popping up as someone I should check out. Today, Olly is frequently called on as a spokesperson for farming to promote the needs of the industry, as well as appearing on the breakfast TV sofa whenever farming hits the headlines. With a National Farmers' Day of Unity planned for today, in protest at this government's unpopular decision to introduce changes in the rules surrounding inheritance tax, it seemed fitting to publish this episode now. On Wednesday this week, we'll find out what, if any, mitigation has been made by the Chancellor, but, as you'll hear from Olly, there's not a whole lot of optimism. Anyway, back to the day-to-day. Here we are, kicking off the conversation with how his day has been. With jobs on the farm this week being mostly maintenance, a few wayward fence posts and a log chipper with a mind of its own have been testing his patience. So after a long day on the farm, I was extremely grateful to him for squeezing in a late-night chat. So, Olly, it's great to meet you finally. Thanks very much for coming on to the podcast. How's your day been?
I've had better. I went and picked some fencing posts up this morning and they managed to escape out the front of the trailer into the back of the car. So, yeah.
On top of the wood chipper playing up this week. How did that happen?
Oh, well, that went wrong last thing today as well. A piece of metal went through that and bent that again. So, yeah. So we'll spend 3 days this week straightening it. Someone told me once about forage harvesters. They said, running a forage harvester is like playing Russian roulette. It's not a question of if it'll break, it's just a question of when. A wood chipper is exactly the same, but there's 2 bullets in the chamber, not one.
I was watching it and I thought, what they need is a blacksmith.
Yeah.
So, a rough day at the office. So, before we come on to how you started, what's a typical day for you at the moment, this time of year?
It's weird at the moment this time. We're quite relaxed for October. Normally we'd be like, oh, it's dry, let's go and do some field work. But the whole seasons became a month sooner. You know, we started harvest in June, not July. We finished harvest in August, not September. You know, we actually started drilling winter cereals at the end of August and then into September, and we were up to date. So this October, really, it's kind of like the November weather where the November workload where we're kind of worked up and we're waiting for winter, but instead it's October and it's surprisingly dry. So we've just been doing sort of property maintenance. We've got a farm that's not really suitable for storing straw in or anything else. So we're turning it into an indoor dog exercise field because we have a few outdoor ones that do well. But in the winter, obviously, when we get wet and muddy, people don't want to use them. So we've been putting lights up and sort of plastic stock boarding around the bottom for putting the wood chip in, and we'll be finishing a fence off tomorrow around the outside as well. So yeah, just stuff like that, really.
Yeah, it's odd, isn't it? Would you normally take time off at this time of the year or in that lull?
Yeah,
or...
I mean, to be fair, I would normally go away in November. I probably will. Well, I will. I'm going to Centre Parks at the very end of November, but only for the weekend. And the last, 3 weeks ago, I came back from Australia. So
Yeah,
I spent 2 weeks going around the world. I was lucky enough to be asked to talk at a conference in Australia in the middle of September. And when they asked me in March, I was like, oh, I might be busy then. But then I thought, you know what? It's an opportunity. I've got staff. If they end up struggling a bit, so be it. It's not often you get the chance to go to the other side of the world and actually be paid to be there. So I managed to, a mate of mine wanted to come. So he paid for his own flights and I booked flights, and we went in a travel agent because we tried to do it where we'd fly, say, Hong Kong and then come back via Singapore or or out through Dubai and back through Singapore. But the airlines were taking the mick really. So we walked to the travel agent, asked them what to do, and they just said, "Well, why don't you get a round the world ticket? You can get a round the world ticket very cheap." So that's what we did. So we did. Originally, it was Singapore, Auckland, into Brisbane, back to Auckland for a few nights, and then LA. And then when they went to book the flights, he said, "Oh, there's a swap over in Bangkok. Do you want to spend the night there as well?" So we're like, "Yeah, okay." So night in Bangkok, got some suits made for 160 quid and 2 shirts in 6 hours. On to Singapore. We were setting up for the Formula One, so we had a mixture around that. That was pretty cool.
Oh, of course.
And so it's absolutely spotless, the place. Unbelievable. Apparently chewing gum's illegal though. So
Right. I think it is in Monaco as well. Must be an
Yeah.
F1 thing.
Yeah. Travel then into Auckland just to pass through and then into Brisbane. Stayed with a cousin in the Glasshouse Mountains, and then at this conference for a few days, then visited some farms the next after the conference. Back to Auckland for 2 nights, two mates out there, met up with them, in LA for the night, and then back to London to the Farmers Weekly was the night we arrived back. So yeah, I feel like I've had a holiday. I didn't stop, and it wasn't very relaxing because we were on the go. But yeah, plenty of plane trips and got off the farm, so it was good.
Yeah, extraordinary. And I guess you get tapped up for quite a lot of those events. Maybe not the other side of the world, but on the
Yeah,
speakers circuit.
first time we've been out of Europe, so yeah. Oh no, actually, I went to China. No, not China. I went to India, didn't I, in the beginning of the year? Yeah, no, I'm lucky really that I get these opportunities, but it's all just come out with the whole YouTubey thing, really. And the Australia gig was all about what they call advocacy within the industry and how we've
Yeah.
been doing some of the lobbying, whereas some of the other trips they're just purely marketing, aren't they? They want to show off their factory, they want to show off their tractor, they want to show off their machine, and that's why they invite you. But that was nice that they wanted me to be there rather than they weren't trying to sell anything off the
Yeah.
back.
So am I right in thinking you started the social media piece with the YouTube channel during lockdown? Is that where it all came from?
Yeah, I mean, I've always put bits and bobs on Twitter, trying to tell a story about farming and a little bit on these other socials, Facebook and Instagram and stuff. And then the BBC had been following me for about 5 years, and every time there was sort of an extreme weather event or whatever, they'd come out. Oh, can we talk about how wet the summer's been, or can we talk about how dry the weather's been? So they'd come out and film on the farm what we were up to, and then they said, "Oh, can we make it regular? Come every couple of months." And that's what they started to do. So the beginning of 2020, they spoke to me and said, "Oh, do you mind if we come end of March?" I was like, "Yeah, that's fine." So we set a date in the diary for them to come and do some filming. And the night before, Boris Johnson announced that we were going into a national lockdown. So we it didn't affect us. We were farming. We were classed as key workers. We were still business as usual. And the BBC rung us and said, "Look, can we still come and see you? We're the same. We're key workers. We're allowed to work. We'd like to show what's going on, outside of a hospital, because obviously all it was all about was hospitals." So I said, "Yeah, no, it's fine." They said, "Oh, we'll use a long lens and we'll use a boom mic and we won't get too close to you and all this." So they turned up and they used a big broom thing with a massive long handle, so it uses a microphone, and then they filmed what we were doing that day, and we made a little 2-minute piece for the daytime not breakfast. What's it called? Depends on it was lunch or dinner. For the lunchtime news, and then they wanted a longer piece for the evening, and they said, "Can you film something with your phone, and we'll use that." So I'd actually just got a new phone a week or two before, because sound like I'm a proper jet setter here, but I'd actually been to Chernobyl around Pripyat, where the power station had blown up in the 80s.
Right.
I'd been to Ukraine quite a few times over the years, helping a seed company out there, and I never got the chance to visit there. And me and two mates decided that we were going, so I got a new phone with a really good camera on it. So of course, when I got my camera out to film for the BBC, I filmed it, and I felt like an absolute wally talking to my phone, even though everyone talks to the phone, but actually filming myself. So I sent them the footage, and they were like, that's amazing. Our boss won't believe that you've done that with your phone. Like, it looks like we've done it with our camera, and it's got a 20 grand lens on it. It's fantastic footage. So they put this video out that night, and I just screen grabbed it and put it on my socials, and loads of people watched it and said they enjoyed it. It was nice to see what happens on a farm that day. So just as a joke, the next day I did the same. I just recorded what I was doing and I put it on my socials, and people watched it. And then I kept doing that every day, just thought it was funny. And my dad's kind of kept this 5-year diary. Like, so he's got a big diary. You fit 5 years in it, and he writes it every day since he was a kid. And then the next day he does it, after 5 years, he's got a book full and he starts again. So he can look back at what he's done on the farm every day since for the last 60 odd years, because he's 77 now. So probably 65 years. So I thought, well, I'm only sort of document the same thing. I'll do it while the world's gone mad, which is obviously COVID. And I didn't really know when to stop, because it kind of stayed mad for quite a while. And then it got to the summer and there was more and more people watching. I had some school teachers asking, can they use the videos? And they weren't actually on YouTube at the very beginning. They were just on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and stuff. So I said, well, I'll upload it to YouTube and send you the link, because it was too big to send on WhatsApp. So they could use it for online learning. So I did that. And then people started watching on YouTube then. And it just grew and grew. And then, so at the end of the summer, there's a guy, Cotland Farmer. He messaged me, went, oh, I've been watching your YouTube videos. But he said, are you really hard to find? Because you've got your channel set up as made for children. I said, well, yeah, some school teachers have been using it. He said, well, you need to change that so that the settings, so that it's on the main YouTube, easy to find. So I said, how do you do that? And he said, oh, you need to log on with a computer. I said, oh, I'll do it all on my phone. I don't like computers. Hence tonight why I'm doing this on my phone. It's not working. And anyway, I never bothered. And then a week or two later, he messaged me and said, look, I'll send you a video out to do it. And he did. So I logged on with the computer and changed the settings. And at the point then, I had like 900 subscribers, which I thought was massive. Anyway, that had built up over about 8 months. And then over the next month or two, I went from 900 to 3,000. I was like, wow. And more people were watching. And yeah, I just thought, I need to stop this in a year. So I said I was going to stop after a year. And there was outrage in the comments that I was going to stop. And then the neighbour said to me, are you mental? Like, why? And he went, you could earn a fortune out of YouTube. And I was like, oh, don't be daft. Like, no, you can. He said, my mate spent 7 years trying to get a YouTube channel going. You've done it without even trying, and you're going to stop. You're mad.
Mm.
Anyway, I didn't really think anything more of it. And then about a month later, there was some terrible rain and some floods. And I ended up helping the police sort of stop some houses flooding. And on the way back, I ended up rescuing a guy out of the flood with the fire brigade with a tractor. And it was all film that day, because that was just what I was doing on the farm that day. That's what I do. So when that went out that night, loads of people watched it, and then the local paper shared it, and even more people watched it. So I turned on the setting to monetize the channel. So that basically means YouTube can put videos within adverts within your videos. And then I woke up and I'd earned like £1.52 while I was been asleep. And I was like, oh my God, that's amazing. It's like free money. Because at this point, I spent nearly a year making these videos, just giving up my time and spending an hour or so messing about, uploading it to everything each night, getting moaned at when I should have been eating my tea because I was sat on my phone editing. And suddenly I got £1.52. I was like, this is amazing. And then the next day I had like £2.30, and then it just went up and up and up. And I thought, this is every day, if this carries on, I'll be able to buy a new sprayer, and YouTube could pay the HP on it. So,
and you did, didn't you?
And I did, yeah. But I didn't realise, though, when you get to the 1st of April, the revenue drops, because advertisers had spent the rest of the budget in March, and it was probably they hadn't spent a lot that year because of COVID, and they blown the budget in March. So we had this massive March, and they ordered a sprayer, and then in April the revenue dropped right off. But it slowly built back up, and then by the time the actual sprayer was built and it arrived in August, and I paid the first payment in September, the YouTube monthly amounts were paying the HP on the new sprayer, and it's carried on ever since. And I mean,
incredible.
I've traded that sprayer in now for a newer one because I had it 3.5 years. But if you look at what YouTube's paid me, it's definitely paid for the sprayer,
Yeah,
which at the
excellent.
time was 230,000.
But
So
I think there's so many stories I'm hearing from people about how that period with COVID affected them in a positive way. It spurred them on to do something slightly different, or it forced them into a situation where they had to think differently about their farm and the business and stuff like that. So the ramifications of it will go on and on. Um,
yeah,
so you're up there in Prescott, Merseyside, am I right? And give
yeah,
us
near Liverpool. I don't know why it's Prescott. The postcode's Prescott, but Prescott's about 10 minutes away.
okay, so give us an overview of the farm.
Yeah, so we're really urban fringe. We're surrounded by motorway junctions, and a lot of the fields back onto housing estates. We have to pick and choose when we move the combine around because of the school rush and stuff. Get a lot of fly tipping. It's relatively flat ground where we are as well, so it's pretty flat from here to the river. So the River Mersey estuary is not that far from us, and some of the land we farm is actually on the banks of the river. So it's quite good in some ways because it's early ground. We don't get a lot of frost at that
Hmm.
land, so stuff gets growing in the spring pretty quick. It is quite sandy, so it doesn't like a dry year. Some of our own farm is, because that's rented, is quite dry. Sorry, it's quite clay, so that doesn't mind a dry year, but it's difficult in a wet year. So we've got. I want to say we've got quite a mix, but we haven't really. We've nearly got more light land than we have heavy ground. And the last year being a drought, it's not been very good for us.
Yeah, I was watching one of your videos today, and I don't know when it was from actually. It might have been a couple of years old, but where you're hitting, or was it recent, where you're hitting some sticky parts of the field, where you're drilling at the, so your
Mm.
guy's out there in the field drilling and it looks good, but then he's kind of getting stuck in the middle of the field because it's just boggy. Was that recently?
No, that was probably last year. Well, yeah, last year, the year before. Last
Yeah.
year was awful. So, I was saying before that we were quite on top of things for this year. Whereas last year we were just like, quick, it stopped raining, let's go and try and drill something. Oh no, it's
It's
too
just
wet, let's
so
try
wet,
another
isn't it?
field. And you go in the lighter fields that you can just about move in, and then you run out of them, and then you kind of knackered, and you end up with the real sticky ones then. So yeah, last year we didn't get a lot of corn drilled at all, and then we ended up putting it in the spring. It went in nice order because the spring this year did start quite dry. January was really dry, and we got going in February, and then of course it never rained
Mm.
until, well, it's not really rained properly yet, has it really? I mean,
No,
October's
not
been quite dry
sustained.
on average. No.
So it's a constant, isn't it? The weather. What keeps you going year after year? And you can add into that question all the other factors impacting farming at the minute.
I've questioned myself what is keeping me going, if I'm honest. I like machinery, and that's why I like farming. I like growing stuff, but at the moment we're losing so much money with commodity prices being low and the cost of producing it so high that the enjoyment is not in the job anymore. And you used to think, well, we've had a bad year, but at least we've still got the land, and there's a bit of appreciation on that, and you've got some kids that you can pass it down to. And then with all this politics that come out of the last budget now, that the motivation to farm has just completely disappeared for me and most people I know at the moment. Um, it it just doesn't seem worth the effort. And whether I see that a bit more because I've travelled around and seen different countries and how they do things, but a lot of people my age and older are really questioning what's the point. Yeah, I mean, I can't really try and be positive because I don't really know anyone that is. I mean, a few people have said, "Oh, we'll get an election and things will carry on," but you've got bad politics taking the enjoyment out of the job, but you've also got huge inflation on your inputs costs, which has also took the enjoyment out of the job.
Mm.
And if you imagine every year we plant a crop and risk the house on it,
Yeah.
like every year for us is like starting a business. Like some people start a business, their own business, and will like remortgage the house and they'll go. And if you think, but I think there's some fact like, is it 20% 80% of businesses fail within the first year?
Yeah, something like
Well,
that. I think in hospitality particularly. Yeah.
well, agriculture at the moment, like, we're doing that every
Every
year
year. Yeah.
with complete uncontrollables. We cannot control the weather and we cannot control the output price. If you went on Dragon's Den and pitched them about farming, they'd laugh at you.
Yeah.
And we're doing that each year, and then now we've got a government that doesn't understand us and think that they can tax the tools of our trade to the point where we have to sell 20-30% of them to carry on every time someone dies, so every 30 years.
Yeah.
And then of course that makes the job even harder again. Then if you've lost 20% of your farm, you've lost your efficiencies. It
Yeah.
just doesn't add up at all. And the only motivation I've had in the last 12 months is to fight the government and educate them as to why it's wrong. I haven't really had any motivation to sit on a tractor or put any corn in the ground. It's really, really difficult at the moment.
That's hard. That's hard to hear, actually. Given that I said to you, you were the first person that people told me to go check out when I started on my crazy journey. And here we are talking. And uh, it's sad to think that it is on your mind so much that you question why you're getting out of bed and doing it every day.
Yeah. And I would say I think it's higher than 90% of the farmers I know.
Mm.
I'm trying to think of a farmer I know that's happy at the moment. And I don't. I mean, there's a WhatsApp group that me and some friends are in, and we're all different. Like two of us have got arable. One of them grows sunflowers and horticultural crops and some potatoes. Another one's got sheep and potatoes and cereals. Another one's cereals. Another one big way in cereals, dairy. Another one, and all of us. There's none of us that think, well, this is all right. You
Hmm.
know, one of them's got beef and they're not doing too bad at the moment, but they're getting fed up with a lot of the legislation and the rising costs as well. You know
Mm.
what? Yeah.
You said you'd been lucky enough to see some different farm systems around the world. Do you think there's any other part of the world that is kind of getting it right or riding the crest of the wave?
So Australia, they they struggle with dry weather a lot of the time and can lose money, but they have consistent dry weather.
Mm.
So it's not like it's a shock to them. So they can build reservoirs or irrigators to mitigate it. But equally, they're a bit more relaxed because they know they don't have to snatch that 2 dry days in March to plant something. They know that they've got all of March. They
Yeah.
know when harvest comes that it's going to be dry I mean, their harvest runs different to ours. So they know it'll be dry from October to February. So
Yeah.
there's no rush. There's no chasing your tail. If something breaks down, we're frustrated because we've got to get it fixed because we've got a weather window. They're just like, oh well, let's have a barbecue. I'll pick the parts up tomorrow. That the pace of life is just more relaxed. And I mean, it is if you just go onto the continent. I mean, the Italians, the Spanish, South France, and all that, where they've got them sort of like more controlled weather patterns. There is less stress in the job.
Hmm.
So if you couple to the fact that there's stressful managing cash flow and trying to stay afloat,
Yeah.
to the fact that our weather could be so cruel in the maritime climate,
Hmm.
other countries don't have that other challenge.
Yeah.
I know that New
Yeah.
Zealand at the moment, they've had it quite wet this year. So I did do a conference in New Zealand over Zoom at the beginning of the summer. And like New Zealand completely relies on export markets and everything they were talking about is export. and they've built a lot of infrastructure to allow them to export more efficiently over the years. And I did a talk to them about politician engagement and stuff like that. And I stayed on for the conference and listened to some of the stuff, and they really wanted to make a case for their export products being the best because they've got natural capital. It rains a lot, and they've got topsoil, and they generally get some sunshine, which is exactly the same as us, really.
Yeah.
Whereas, that's something that Australia can't boast. You know what I mean? They it doesn't rain there. Water's scarce. They don't have a lot of deep topsoil. I mean, they have soil, but not like we'd have. Yeah, but these sort of drier climates, and at least when they do get a weather front coming or a pattern, it's for 3 or 4 weeks or a month. It's not 2 or 3 days.
You're fifth generation farmer, your family, am I
Well,
right?
that's just here. I mean, it goes right back as far as my dad can find, really. But in Tarbert, which is where we are, I think I'm the 5th in Tarbert.
So was it always expected that you would become a farmer?
It was never like forced on me. I just wanted to do it. Hated school. I just, hated it. I was dyslexic as well, so like I don't fit the national curriculum.
Yeah, wasn't designed for you.
No.
So, if not farming, what might it have been? Put aside how you feel today, but what might it have been?
I really fancied being a rally driver. Like, I grew up when Colin McRae was, everywhere. But it was so expensive, and I did do a bit of rallying. And I've got a bit of a rally car in the shed. I once fancied.
Do you want to buy another one? I know one that's for sale.
What kind is it?
Oh, don't ask me that. I'll get you the details.
Yeah, no, I remember I went round a tractor factory in Finland, and when I was about 18, I was 18 or 21, and it was a business class flight, and I was like the youngest person on it. And the pilot said, "Oh, do you want to look around the cockpit?" Because it was before 9/11. But they invited me in the cockpit and would show me what everything was, and I thought, "Okay, hell, this is cool." They looked like they were on good money, and we just sat in this big, what was to me was like a big tractor with no wheels.
Yeah.
And then when it come to land, they said, "Do you want to sit in the cockpit while we land?" So I did. And I mean, what an opportunity that you now can't have, because
I know, it was great, wasn't it? I think I went up front once. It was just amazing.
Yeah,
Love to be pilot.
Yeah, so I sat in with the landing, and then I thought, do you know what? Like at the time, farming was a bit unprofitable back then, and I was thinking maybe I could be a pilot, because the farm wasn't very big then, and it struggled to sort of pay me a wage when I left school. Me and my dad. So I did a bit of contracting to keep the bills going and buy machinery, and that's how the farm grew, really. But yeah, I did think, well, maybe I should be a pilot, but then I realised there's loads of paperwork, so I never bothered.
And then you became a farmer. There's no paperwork involved in that, is there?
Yeah, well, I always was. I just thought maybe I could do my pilot's license on the side, and it was better money. But yeah,
we have to talk about tractors. So I'm going to start with, and I should know the answer to this. Well, what's your favourite tractor?
A Fendt 728. It's just can do everything, and it's so comfortable.
And I've asked this question before. If I had eyes on a tractor just to do little short runs to the pub and back, because there's no pub in this village, what should I get?
A little tractor or a big tractor?
Well, a little one, just 3.5 miles to the pub and back.
I'd just get a buggy thing, like a Gator or Corvus or whatever, because they're just, you have to climb into them, they're easy to park.
Where's the fun in that? Well, yeah. I'm still thinking, I've got nowhere to put one, so it's not going to happen for a little while.
Yeah.
So you've covered quite a lot of ground in the videos. Obviously, you've been doing it, like 4 or 5 years now, I guess.
Yeah.
There's a theme running through it of charitable activities, setting aside the sort of political campaigning stuff, but you do quite a lot of things for charities here and there. How did that come into being, and what are you up to at the minute?
Oh, this is a long story. Right, so years ago I'd been in the Ukraine, and I was traveling back from the east to Kiev, but now they call it Kyiv.
Mm-hmm.
And the fields were massive, big white fields of snow and big white sky because it was snowing. And we had a translator with us, me and my mate, and I said, "Oh my God, the fields look amazing." And he said, "Oh, you should see them in the summer when they're full of sunflowers." So I thought, I won't get the chance to go back in the summer because I'm always busy. I'll try and grow some. So I went to Pets at Home and I got some sunflower seeds, basically bird feed. And I put it in the corn drill and drilled it on a field that some rabbits had eaten in the spring. And I had 5 acres of sunflowers and they looked amazing. So I took a load of pictures and put it on my socials. And my friend's wife, Linda, said, "Oh, they're amazing. Can I have a bunch of them?" And I just jokingly said, "Yeah, £20 a bunch." And she said, "Oh, I'll have 2. It's like, you don't really see sunflowers in the UK.
No.
My other friend's wife at the time, Amanda, she had cancer and she wasn't very well at all. And she said, oh, can I have some?" So I said, yeah. I said, I'll bring you some round, some more if you want. Is it convenient? Because she'd like lost her hair with the treatment and this, that, and the other. And she's like, yeah, come round tomorrow. I put the kettle on. So I went round this big bunch of sunflowers, the biggest you've ever seen. And her husband, a friend of mine, Nick, he's like, "Oh my God, that's massive. Like, how many of these have you got?" Like, "I've got a field full of them. I don't know, 10,000. He's like, so he's on his phone. He's like, "They're 30 quid a bunch of Marks and Spencer's." Like, yeah, I know. I said, "But I haven't got time to pick them." I said, we're still not finished combining wheat because it's like early September. So I'm driving back from their house and I'm thinking, there's a hellish value in that field. How can I capitalize on it? And it was at the time when Michael Gove was Environment Minister, and he was everything's like, "Oh, farmers shouldn't be getting a subsidy unless it's public money for public good."
Mm.
And I thought, oh, maybe people would buy them for the birds to eat over winter. I thought, but they probably won't want to give me the money, but maybe they'd give it to a charity. So I Googled the words sunflowers, charity, Liverpool. And this thing popped up, Liverpool Sunflowers Cancer Care Charity. I was like, well, that's perfect. I've just been to see someone with cancer. So I went on their website and then I saw that they had a Facebook page. Went on the Facebook page and they were organising a charity salsa dancing evening. And I thought, well, that's interesting. Linda that asked me about sunflowers in the first instance goes salsa dancing. Anyway, didn't think any more of it. Well, that night I put on Facebook, does anyone know how to do this? I've got this field of sunflowers. I was thinking people can buy them and everyone they buy, I won't harvest. And the rest of the birds can eat it over winter. And they can give the money to charity. I found a charity, but I don't know how to do it. And the mate of mine buy straw off me and went, "Oh, it's dead easy. They're on Just Give It. Just set up a Just Giving page with them in it and share the link and people can do it." So I did. And then the same thing. I went to bed, woke up the next day and I'd raised 500 quid for them while I was asleep. Because everyone had thought, "Oh, that's a good idea. I'll buy some sunflowers in memory of a loved one." And,
Yeah.
Anyway, the next morning, this charity tracked me down, rolled me up and went, "Oh my God, this is amazing what you've done. Last night, we had a charity salsa dancing evening. It took us months to organise. And, you've raised more while you've been asleep doing this thing." Anyway, it was only afterwards when I spoke to Linda, who first wanted the bunch of sunflowers. She wants them for a raffle prize for that salsa dancing thing.
Right.
We never got the raffle prize because I was too busy and forgot. But they ended up getting about 10 grand of people buying these sunflowers for charity because the papers picked it up, the news picked it up, and it went pretty viral. Well, the year after, I thought, oh, do you know what? I have these sunflowers, like, no amazed. So I tried to grow them again, and it was a drought and they weren't very tall. Then the next year they were full of weeds. And then BBC Green Planet rang me up and said, "Oh, we believe you grow sunflowers in the UK." And I was like, "Yes, I try to." He said, "Can we come and film with David Attenborough in the summer?" So I was like, well, yeah. So that year I made sure that the slugs didn't eat them, the pigeons didn't eat them, and gave them loads of fertilizer and had this stunning display of sunflowers. And that's what I opened. Amazing. And it was COVID, so it was good outdoor activity. And I thought, well, it's easy to raise money for charity with sunflowers, so I'll do it again. So I said I'd open this maze up for charity. And I said half the profits, because it was a drought and I was skint myself. I said half the profits would go to charity. And it took 100,000 quid in 4 weeks with about
Blimey.
£7,000 of operating costs. So I ended up giving about 44,000 or something to charity or something. So yeah, that's how that came about. And then when you raise money for charity, it gets addictive. You want to raise more every time.
Mm-hmm.
So that winter, I'd seen what they were doing in the Isle of Man, where they put Christmas lights on the tractors and drive around the town and people donate money for charity.
Yeah.
And I thought, we could do that here, but better because there's more tractors. But I thought, well, it'd be nice to visit the Children's Hospital because I'd given them one of the donations from the sunflowers. So I rang them and said, can we do this? And they were like, oh, that'd be amazing. So I said, well, we'll come with these tractors, visit the hospital, and we're going to go on to the food bank. And then if people want to donate, then we'll give that to you as well. So that's what we did. So I did that for 5 years. We raised 250, 300,000 for the Old Age Children's Hospital with that.
Phenomenal.
And then another charity that I gave some money to as well with the sunflower maze was the Northwest Air Ambulance. Because being a farmer, if you have an accident in the field, there's only a air ambulance that's going to get to you.
Yeah.
So I had lots of people all the time because I do a video every day going, oh, can you wish little Johnny happy birthday? Can you wish little Charlotte happy birthday and all this? So every day I was like getting all these messages on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, text message, WhatsApp. And I was all through the day, I was like screenshotting them at night and try and remember them. And I'd write them on the tractor window or the front of the bumper.
Yeah.
I'd read out these birthdays. But it got out of hand. And some days there was like 50 to 20 names. I was like, if it's not your birthday, this makes the video really boring. So I thought, right, I need to cut the numbers down. So I said, right, no one's getting a birthday mention unless they give a donation to the Northwest Air Ambulance. I set up a Just Giving page, and that was it. Anyway, it didn't really deter people, and they still do it now. So that's raised 105,000 now just for the Northwest Air Ambulance, just by reading birthdays out.
Yeah, it's incredible. And
it is, but it definitely affects the YouTube channel. I see a graph of how people watch on those.
Yeah.
People will fast forward it or stop watching.
I see.
Point. So yeah, it cost me money.
Maybe they haven't got the tolerance for watching you fix a wood chipper. The same tolerance I have.
Well, I don't know whether I am a subscription with YouTube now, so I don't see the adverts. But when you get an advert, come on, you've got to wait 5 seconds for it to disappear.
Yeah.
30 seconds. And it seems like the longest 5 seconds ever. Well, if it's not your birthday now, I'm talking about people's birthdays for 20 or 30 seconds. It must be like an advert to them, mustn't it? So, yeah, but I can't stop now, can I? Because at the time, I thought it might do a few thousand. They did 10,000 in 4 or 5 months. And then I think I've been doing about 3.5 years where they've got a paid donation and it hit 100,000 this summer.
Did I read that the tractor run, the police can't support it this year? Is it?
Well, yeah. So the first 3 years, when we went around the city, we went to the Children's Hospital around the city and everything like that. The police helped us and they gave us an escort with the motorbikes and cars. And then the last 2 years, they pulled out and said that they weren't insured because it wasn't, unless it's a public emergency or whatever, or they're not allowed to do it. They said they can for community engagement. Well, I think it is community engagement, but anyway, they've pulled out now. So we've done it 2 years without them, but they've put the ownership on me of the crowds it generates. So it gets hundreds of thousands of people watching.
Yeah.
And they're like 20 deep on the pavements. And apparently that's my responsibility to keep them safe. And I'm like, but they're your community to the council and the police. It's, it's not really my thing, and they were like, no, you're generating a crowd. You've got to guarantee their safety. So last year they gave me like quite a nasty letter telling me not to do it. But it was too late, so we did it. And then this year I just thought, you know what, I don't want the risk now.
No.
After what happened at the Liverpool parade and even the synagogue a few weeks ago, the guy drove his car into people before he got out stabbing them. So I think if someone was to do an act of terror on my watch, I don't want to go in prison for it. So I've called it a day until the police ever come back on.
Well, I think you have a knack for many things. Certainly raising money while you're asleep seems to be put that on your CV. But yeah, the ideas and the different ways of raising money for the community and keeping those things front of mind. We should wrap up, really. It's been fascinating to hear from you, because whilst you post daily, it's snippets and it's what you're getting on with. And so we, as the viewers, I suppose we get a flavour of what you're up to, but the real Olly step forward. And it's nice to hear you put it all together. What's next for you in the next few weeks in the run up to Christmas? What's that look like?
I'll be in Germany in a couple of weeks. So there's the biggest agricultural show in our hemisphere this side of the Atlantic in Hanover in Germany, second week in November. So I'll be over there. We're doing some work with a tyre company where we've been running their tyres on some of our equipment. So they want me to go over there and meet some people. And I'll have a look around at what's new in the market. Not that I can afford any of it, but it'd be nice. So yeah, I'll be over there in November. We probably will be back in London at some point as well, pre-budget, just to make sure the government understands what's going on still. Yeah. What else have we got? I don't know. I've got lots of blobs in my phone. A few calls here and there, but yeah.
Well, whatever you get up to, I know you'll be filming it for our enjoyment, and we look forward to that. Always to see your take on these things, whichever way it goes. So thank you so much for agreeing to be on the podcast. It's been lovely to talk to you.
No, thanks for having me.
And if we can do one again next year, that'll be great. I will be following all the activity that you get up to, for sure.
Thanks. All right. Keep in touch.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks to Olly for his time today. It's clear to see that, like many a farmer, he rarely switches off. I set out with this podcast to discover people's stories, their reality, not an airbrushed version of life on the farm. So I also want to say that this interview had a tremendous effect on me. We would continue talking off mic for another 20 minutes or so about his thoughts and feelings, about his own future in farming, and what that might look like for his young family. It would be easy to think that, well, he's all right. He must be raking it in with all the public appearances and monetised social media channels. But ask yourself, is it right that the only way he's making it work financially is because he's been forced to rely on that as an income stream? How is it that we've come to a position where the very basic of needs, food production, has been undermined to such an extent that we're all but erasing it from society? And what effect is that having on him and many like him? After the Second World War, farm mechanisation altered the industry with developments such as the Fergie T20. Suddenly, an affordable and revolutionary tractor would replace the need for horses and manpower, and along with other innovations, the landscape literally would be transformed. Of course, there will always be changes in the name of progress, but progress implies improvements, not extinction. I could go on, but by the time this episode airs, much more will have been said by others. And whatever happens in the budget or in the months to come, farming is inevitably going to have to evolve to survive. I want to thank Olly again for spending time with me. You can find all his content on various social channels, the main one being YouTube, and I'll share some links in the show notes. And if you enjoyed listening to this podcast, as always, please like or subscribe or leave me a review. Thanks for listening, and if it is past your bedtime, then perhaps it's time to turn in. Until next time.